Hi and welcome, my name is Lawrence Baker and this video is going to be about image optimization plugins for WordPress. Bottom line is what they do is they crush the file size down. That's really important for SEO. You need to have a very fast loading site, but it's absolutely vital that your site loads fast. For photographers, that's going to be a problem. We want our images to look good, but you're going to have to make a compromise. So when you come out of Photoshop or Lightroom or Affinity or GIMP, make sure you're coming out at the lowest quality level. Now, in previous videos, I showed you ways of doing it without resorting to a plugin. This is all going to be about WordPress. So the way WordPress works is like this. For every one image you bring in, there's 4 more images created. So when it creates these 4 extra images, they're smaller at smaller pixel dimensions. They're also going to be compressed, JPEG compressed at 82%. It was 90, and they use IMAGEMAGICK compression. So you've got Adobe doing their own image compression to create a lossy file. And then on top of that, you've got WordPress creating more images and compressing them. It doesn't touch the full size image. Just a quick heads up here about full size. People get confused about it and say, well, it says here my full size must be this on my theme. It doesn't work like that. Now, I uploaded my images, most of them, at 2,600 pixels. I wish I hadn't, but it's too late now. I'll probably go back and change them in the future. But this particular image is at 1,900 pixels on its longest edge. And I'm on a 5K Mac. It doesn't look that bad. There's been some browser resizing that does take place. Now, even WordPress can't serve up the perfect image for every scenario. So you're going to get a bit of browser resizing as well. The theme on top of that will definitely create more image sizes, and some plugins will as well. Currently on my site, for every one image, the full size image, I've got 11 images at smaller pixel dimensions. It's not file size. Well, it probably will be file size, but it's smaller pixel dimensions. And WordPress has compressed them as well. The WordPress plugin should do all the work. Now, let's say you've already got images on your site, then you might have to run a bulk optimization, which I'm actually running at the moment. And I'm using a plugin called EWWW Image Optimizer. And because I've got existing images, they have to be optimized. And you can see what's going on here. For every one image, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for that image. So it all depends on the full size image, what you've got, below it. But basically, you can see what's going on. It's basically doing a bulk optimization on all those different images. So when you think you've got, let's say, 100 images, normally that would mean 1,000 images. So if the plugin actually says, for pricing here, you can have for free 150 images a month, and using lossless compression or lossy compression, etc., 150 images, probably for most of us, will equate to 15 images. If you've already got existing images, let's say you've got 100 images, that's 1,000 images on average. So that's going to take a while to optimize them, several months at the very least. So that's why some of these free versions are not very good. Now, most of these plugins are freemium. They sort of offer different business models. I think EWWW Image Optimizer, which is a mouthful, they give you an API key straight away, but that will only allow for 100 images. So that would roughly be about 10 images. For me, in fact, it would be 8. So you've got to think of all these things all the time. Free is not always good. But there is one plugin which I believe is probably your best free plugin, and that's called reSmush.it. It's very, very good. It uses a lossless optimization method. That means it doesn't take out as much as it possibly could, let's say using a lossy method, but it is very good. And I've used it and I can vouch for it. The only things that it sort of restricts you from doing is all your images must be below 5 megabytes in file size. And for most of us, coming out, let's say 40 or 50 quality in JPEG, that would be way below that. You just install the plugin and that's it. It does its work. It's really, really good. I have to say, I'm really impressed. Now, I've gone down the paid route for a different reason than just getting small file sizes, and I'll come to that in a minute. But I'm not going to deal with reSmush.it anymore. Suffice it to say, I'm really impressed with it for a free plugin. So I might have an example here I'm going to go back to the library. This image here, let's go to this view. That file was reduced by 429 kilobytes and 53.55% was saved. So that's really, really good. And that was using reSmush.it. Now I did play around with the quality settings, but it didn't seem to make a massive amount of difference. Now, this plugin isn't really supported outside of the forum. Their business model is they're giving it away for free, so you shouldn't really complain. Now, some people say it's rubbish, but I've just used it and I think it's okay. So I might even buy them a beer. So all you've got to do in the settings here is optimize and upload, which makes sense. And that will enable the statistics when you look at the image, let's say in the attachment view or in the media viewer here. Yeah, you can see they're the statistics. So it's reduced those files by a lot. Now, I played around with the quality setting. It didn't seem to make much difference, unfortunately. So as this plugin is not supported, I will stick now with the recommended default of 92 quality. It seems to do a really good job. It's free. 2 restrictions, under 5 megabytes, and it's the fact it uses a lossless compression. But if it takes 53% out of, that's really good. That definitely is really good. So if you've got no money and you don't want a lot of control, reSmush.it is the way to go. Now I'll show you ShortPixel because it's very popular and it's probably a bit better than using reSmush.it. It seems to get more out of a file. I use both ShortPixel and one called EWWW Image Optimizer. It's a mouthful because I like the control of EWWW and also like ShortPixel's very simple interface. So if I'm designing for someone else and I might hand the website over, if they want to make changes to the plugin, they can because it's got a lovely interface. So ShortPixel, you know, under general here, you've got lossy, glossy or lossless. Glossy is for photographers. They don't say much more than that. Advanced, you've got things about converting stuff to WEBP. WEBP is a new format which is more efficient for images than JPEG. So this plugin will do that conversion on the fly for you, and that can make great savings as well. The rest is a bit advanced. Things like deliver WebP versions of the images in the front end. You can use the picture tag syntax. If you don't understand that, don't tick it. Just use without altering the page code, and so on and so forth. Optimize PDFs, convert to RGB from CMYK. I can't think of anyone that can come out from Photoshop using the export as CMYK, but you never know. So it will do that conversion. You don't really need that, so I'm going to untick that. You can integrate your Cloudflare because Cloudflare offer a free CDN. I'm coming to CDNs in a minute. So all these things, really, a lot of them you don't need. One you definitely do is also optimize the retina images at 2 times if they exist. I'll show you an app from a guy called Geordie Meow. Yes, that's his name. That's why he has cat symbols. He's a photographer, but he's a WordPress developer. Now, this is a free plugin, or it's a freemium plugin, which you can upgrade. I recommend if you get, let's say, an image optimization plugin, you definitely get this and just use it free or upgrade it or whatever. It is extremely good. If you don't understand this thing about high pixel density screens, it doesn't matter. This will do the job for you. That's a recommendation as well. I'm looking through here, optimized PDFs. I'm not going to deal with PNGs. Needless to say, you can convert PNGs to JPEG, but personally, I wouldn't do that because PNGs work for logos. So if your logo's a PNG, converting it to JPEG, it's a more aggressive compression method, but it might make your logo look pretty awful. So be careful of that one. Personally, I wouldn't do it. Nothing else here really makes a lot of difference. You can see the amount of images this site has got. Now, thumbnail, medium, large, and large are created by WordPress, which we now know gets compressed by using WordPress's method, which is IMAGEMAGICK, I believe. There's so many different ways of compressing a JPEG. People ask, well, why don't Adobe do it? They just use a less aggressive method, which probably definitely preserves quality. But of course, if you go down to 40 quality, you are affecting the quality. But I'm just saying there's always more to take out of a file. There definitely is. That's why we've got these image optimization plugins. So there's all the images there that have to be optimized. So for every one image, there's all the rest of these images. It all depends on your original full size. If it's less than 1024, obviously it's not going to create everything else. It can't go larger. It can only go below that amount in pixel dimensions. That's basically how it all works. Now, the problem with ShortPixel is it doesn't have a CDN, but it does, but it's a different plugin. So if you want to use their CDN, they've got an adaptive images plugin which uses a CDN. CDN stands for Content Delivery Network. And that means there's a web of servers around the world, like Google Cloud or Amazon S3, serving up cached versions of a website if you paid for that service. Now, Cloudflare do a free one, but they won't serve up images, only static files like CSS, etc., and HTML. Buying a CDN for yourself can be quite expensive. There are cheap ones like KeyCDN, Fastly, which is very good, want $50 every month, no matter what bandwidth you're using. But try and get it with your plugin, like here. I would say the best plugin to support a CDN is actually EWWW Image Optimizer, which I've got here. Now, it's currently doing a bulk optimize on some of my images, so I had to pay quite a bit to get them done because I had a lot of images there in the first place. It is a more complicated workspace, basically. There's a lot more you can do, but the exact DM bit here is the CDN. And you get charged $9 a month, no matter what, and you've got a certain amount of bandwidth because obviously CDNs get measured in bandwidth in terms of data each month. And I think it's really good. Occasionally, because I recompress stuff that was already compressed, I ended up paying $15 a month instead of the normal $9. On average, I only upload about 3 or 4 images a month, to be honest with you, to put in my galleries because it's only my best work. So I don't, I'm only by myself, so I'm not creating tons of images. I'm not a wedding photographer that has to create huge galleries either. But using a CDN is really, really good. Now, you might argue, well, I don't need a web of servers around the world serving up my website because my customers are in London, my hosting server's in London. Why do I need a CDN? Well, your hosting provider's servers are not as good. I can guarantee you that. Also, they're shared services, or shared servers, I should say, and that, uses up more resources. So having a cached version of your site, let's say in London, on an edge server from a CDN is still better than your hosting provider. So I honestly would push you towards getting a CDN. If you're trying to sell around the world, well, you've got to have one, without a doubt. If you're trying to sell your work, let's say in Australia, and you live in London, you need a CDN. Now, there's some big CDNs like Google Cloud and Amazon S3. There's some small ones. If you've already got image optimization or you don't want to go through the plugin side of it, then I do recommend you look into a CDN. There's some image CDNs out there as well. It's a big world. I don't want to go into them too much here, but I honestly believe that you need a CDN. Now, the resizing here means this. The reason we have these extra images, as you can see all these images here, is that you get served the right image for the right device mainly. So, in their galleries, they're fixed, etc., etc. These have been created by the theme. So resizing gets done with WordPress. It basically tries to serve up the image closest to the size your browser says will work. But with the resizing service here, the CDN does it. The Content Delivery Network does it. And it tries its best to resize exactly to fit. So you don't get what I call browser resizing, which is bad because browser resizing means the image didn't fit in the first place, so it has to be made larger or smaller. Making it larger will actually ruin the quality. A little bit larger, not too bad, but going too large, doubling the size, for instance, which it will do for retina images if it needs to create a retina image. That's why you need that plugin, is not good. And when you get your site assessed by Google, it looks into all these things saying, well, it's serving up images are not the right size. So having this CDN that does the resizing on the fly, it's infinite amount of sizes that, well, not totally infinite, but you know what I mean. It's not stuck to these sizes here. Basically, it says, well, I think this is going to be the best size. Now, it's far better than actually using just WordPress alone. It's got WEBP support as well and lots of other things going on here. If you don't understand it, don't tick it. Try and read his help pages. They're very, very good. The big mistake I made when I first got an image optimization plugin, I used to press a button to optimize my images that had already been optimized on upload. So don't touch anything. Do the bulk optimize, which I'm doing at the moment on my existing images. Once the plugin's there, any image you upload will be dealt with by the plugin. Just to go back there a little bit to look at anything else that can be important. No, that's fine. Now, it's a more difficult interface than ShortPixel, but I prefer it because I prefer the fact the CDN is built in. CDNs are definitely important, and WebP is important as well. And since I've been using this, I've only been using it a day. I have used it before on other sites. I'm so impressed at how it's changed the speed of my site, how things are working much, much better. The bottom line is reSmush it if you've got no money. You lose a little bit of control. You haven't got a CDN. You might have to pay for a CDN, and I recommend you do. So if that's the cheap route of going out and doing image optimization. But the two I really recommend are EWWW Image Optimizer and ShortPixel. ShortPixel has an easier interface and less control, slightly less control. EWWW is more complex. If I had to put my money on the table, EWWW Image Optimizer is the best. I've heard or seen results saying ShortPixel gets more out of your file in terms of file size, but honestly, they compared it to what I call the free version of EWWW Image Optimizer. So the things to take away from this will always be get the foundations right, export from Lightroom or Photoshop or Affinity or whatever at the lowest possible JPEG quality. Then look into the free plugins, but the only decent free one is reSmush.it because they have too many restrictions. Some of the freemium ones pull you in and they almost know that you're going to pay for the upgrade because you've done a little bit of optimization, maybe 10 images. If you have to go down that route, I say if you want to get full control, EWWW Image Optimizer is my favorite. It comes out in tests that EWWW doesn't take out as much from the file, but it's often for the free version they're comparing it to against ShortPixel, which will do lossy on the first run, but only for 150 images. So I think it's unfair. What I can see, the EWWW Image Optimizer does a very good job of image optimization. You can change the level of image optimization by using Premium Plus, etc., etc. So to reiterate, basically reSmush.it or reSmush.it is the best. Out of the two paid for ones, I would say ShortPixel takes a little bit more out in terms of file size and has quite a simple interface, whereas EWWW Image Optimizer slightly less aggressive in its file size reduction, but it's got the CDN built in. That's it, guys. Thanks very much.